You know what, Stephanie? I believe that I can get it up. I mean, I had it.
So tonight, the committee hopes that you will take away tools to assess accurate information about elections and the people we elect to office. Committee members recognize you're going to see a lot of information tonight to absorb. So please focus on things you might want to explore further. Don't let it overwhelm you. And the webinar will be available on our website to review or use. And if you want to use it in your branch meetings later, it's going to be recorded. Before we get started, I want to remind those in attendance that AAUW is nonpartisan and advocates for issues that impact the lives of women and girls. To be effective advocators, you need to be well informed. To make your voice an effective voice, being an informed voter takes effort in finding accurate information. In preparing tonight's content, the committee intends not to influence your vote, but to assist members in finding better information sources other than some of the ads I've seen on TV. And if some of them bother you as much as they do me, we need to find better information. The committee has intentionally put the entire website of sources instead of a neat little tidy link that says link, so you can explore and share the sites. So lots of times you get documents that have that nice little link. We want you to see what the websites are in case you want to do that extra exploring. So our webinars support our mission, so we came up with some statements just to help us. So we advocate for issues that impact the lives of women and girls. We need to be equipped with accurate information, remembering we're nonpartisan to relevant issues, and we don't all agree on it, but we're still nonpartisan. And these are significantly impacted by elected officials, and we've seen a lot of that being played out. Oops, wrong way. So being an advocate for AAUW issues, so this is part of our how-to mini-series from the Public Policy Committee. And tonight the facilitators are myself as Public Policy Co-Chair, Barb Peterson, which I know we've been trying to get her on. She's on a little trouble there. And Sarah Finger, who is the CEO and founder of a Wisconsin Alliance for Women's Health, to help us with our mission tonight in our webinar. Oops, I gotta keep going in the right direction. All right, just a reminder that we've done a webinar for some of you who might have been vacationing in July. We did, what can you do to make sure your vote counts? And the reason we did it so early was we had the primary elections in Wisconsin, which are very different than the rest of our elections. And so we wanted to make sure people understood that. And so Jackie and Mary did a great job putting that all together for us. And so tonight is our second one. Where do the candidates stand on critical AAUW issues? And again, we'll have a different link later, but for now, you can go to this website, our policy website. All right, again, just a reminder, just to kind of keep this as this bigger picture. So we've got our two webinars and tonight, so the first two there, and our next plan is to prepare for meeting with elected officials. And we're going to do this via Zoom. And then we'll work on how we're going to meet and do advocating with the AAUW issues. We haven't done this for a while, taking it to the elected officials, and it could be in a variety of ways. We're not sure how that will be, but this will be coming later after people are elected to office. And then we want to get people to be using the 2-minute activists, and we have the ability to do it nationally, which you all are subscribed to that, and you can choose to participate in the way you want. But we also have the ability to do it as a Wisconsin on just our issues and send out messages to our members to take some action. All right. So this is, I know, a lot on this page. Again, I don't want you to be overwhelmed by everything, but we try to take a look at what are some of the priority issues of AAUW in the policy committee. If you remember last year, we focused pretty much on fair maps, and that was most of our work. But there are a lot of other issues. Some of them are kind of our local state as opposed to national, but certainly vouchers and shifting of public money to private schools and some of the things that are happening in school boards are there. Title IX, we've seen that sort of whittled away. And then we put in here our culturally responsive inclusive curriculum, which we did as a resolution. Again, all those under education. And tonight, we'll be just looking a little bit more at healthcare. Again, we're not trying to influence your values and your ideas. We're just trying to make sure that you have the best information when you're making decisions. So reproductive rights and the impact of Roe versus Wade, access to healthcare and affordable healthcare. So those are all issues. Many of these things came up as the pandemic hit, and some of those things were more highlighted than ever before. And then the next part is women's economic issues. So this is the gender pay gap. We also are, the association at this national level is working on paid family and medical leave. And even in the past, when you had family and medical leave, it protects your job, but a lot of it is unpaid. And so a lot of families suffered, particularly in the pandemic, without paid leave, having to stay home and take care of children and so on. And then there's this, what they call the motherhood penalty, the child care, and how expensive we've seen that happen. All right, again, some of the issues, and we put there, again, if you go to our website, you can see the others. It's a long list of our public policy statements that you who went to convention, participate in convention saw, and we voted on that. We do that every 2 years.
Actually, just a quick question. I recall at our public policy committee meeting, there were a number of issues that we could have included, but we decided to distill down to education, women's health care, and women's economic issues. Mm-hmm. So as you just mentioned, we could refer our members to a more extensive list in our public policy, correct?
Yes, much more. And we passed a couple of resolutions this year. We talked about climate. And so all of those things you can advocate for, whatever is your passion. But there are some things as a state organization we're going to focus on. Some of you could use them at your branches, and many branches do that. They have a public policy component in their branch meetings. So those are all there for you, but everything that's on the website is things that we have voted on. And in the case of the webinar, they will be there for you as well.
So, thanks for that clarification, Stephanie.
Okay. So why focus on these issues? So when we were planning this, we're like, so why should we even talk about this? So again, these are just some of our brainstorming. Some of you probably even have better ones than we have, but just to give us a little taste of why this matters. Greater awareness translate into greater voter participation. If I know what's going on, I'm more likely to go to vote because I've invested my time in it. I have more concerns about what's happening. If I've heard some things and some things that are really bothering me, I'm gonna take more time to find out. We've seen the potential risk of eroding and overturning existing laws. Sometimes it's good, but most of the time it's not. So Title IX, a lot of things in that, again, other things are happening. We see everything kind of being pushed around and watered down as we move forward. We know that if women and girls are well situated, they have equity, it makes a more stable economy. They're often the heart of it. And so if they aren't making the salaries, they don't have the time and energy to do the things that they need to do as well. We know it's the right thing to do to vote. We fought for that right to vote, women. We need to remember that. And we also have spent a number of times in conventions talking about when we put our voices together, we amplify that. Again, all of us working together on some of the same issues. So that brings us to, how do you know which candidates to vote for? And I have gone to many different things, and we've seen it happen on TV. It seems like TV is taking more of an interest in it. I don't listen to radio much. It's kind of my quiet time in the car. But there are more and more times where we see things that are just craziness. So how do you really know? And how do we focus on, in our case, because we're AAUW, how do we focus on those issues that we say are important? All right. I'm losing my spot here. Okay, so as we move into this tonight, it brings us now to our webinar topic. Where do they stand? And being nonpartisan, I want to continue to emphasize that. And I want to continue to emphasize that we are advocates. We're not in political parties, we're advocates. And so sometimes there's candidates on any of the parties that believe in the same issues, and those are the things we're looking at. We're only here to offer you ways of accurate information on any candidate so that you're an informed voter, again, not to influence your vote or your values. All right, what is our attempt to do tonight is how can voters find candidates' voting records? So we know that some candidates are running for re-election. So what is their past? What have they said and done? Are they still true to that, or are their actions show something else? How might the election impact the future of legislation on these issues? So we've seen that happen in Wisconsin, as we've seen a change in the tide of who came into office. And some things are very frustrating. Some things might change. We don't, we're not, again, not influencing, but we know that there was a change in how things are done. And then the next piece is the process of nonpartisan. That's where Sarah comes in today. What they do, they have more staff and energy, I guess you could say, around these issues, and they focus on specific issues around women's health. And they're going to help us take a look at how they go through the process of looking at candidates. And then the last, as Mary has said, we're going to do some Q&A as much as we can for you.
Just to mention, Stephanie, to underscore, there is a website here. And of course, these will be hot links in the PowerPoint presentation. The committee went through a very, very thoughtful and reflective conversation. There's an abundance of websites out there, but the committee was very judicious of deciding which ones might have the best opportunity to give you the bandwidth and also to give you the depth and the substance. So we invite you, there's not one size fits all, but there's a number. Then Sarah also will have a number of websites. So the intended purpose is for you to surf out, surf the ones that you want and use it as a reference. But there'll be a number of websites that you'll see in the PowerPoint.
Again, try not to be overwhelmed by it, but explore them. Some of them you might like better than others. This was one that we put out there. A Citizen's Guide to Participating in the Wisconsin State Legislature. So this might be something you want to look at, because one of the things we did for those who are involved in the fair mapping was open records. And I think it's a good thing right now. They're so far behind because they don't have enough staff. So they've been asking for more staff, because I forget the percentage that they've increased demand for open records. So that's good. Our citizens are saying, we want to know what's happening and having a voice. And that's what we need to do. As Mary said, we put up a number of other websites. Vote411.org, we've talked about before. We took a look at ones that we felt wouldn't get you on a list. So again, explore some of these and see what they might do to help you to find some of the answers that you want. We're not asking you to join the organizations, but you can certainly go to their websites and find some information. Again, a number of sources. It's your choice to choose or not, but you might enjoy exploring some of those.
Yes. Have a hot cup of tea and surf.
Yeah, there you go. Like when we had all those rainy days, right? You didn't know what else to do. Okay. So why will the elections impact, or how will the elections impact AAUW issues? All right, we've seen already, we talked about Title IX, how that's been weakened at the national level, but we even have we've seen things happen at our local level. So voter turnout, that gives some messages. We talk a lot and hear a lot about who's out there, who's showing up, and legislators or elected officers are paying attention to that. We know that the newly drawn districts impacts elections, so we need to sometimes have more effort in other spots. We may not make a difference, but we do have state elections where we have more of an impact. So we need to make sure we do that. We know that the makeup of the House, the Senate, and the governor, those places, how they work together or not work together, tells what happens in the state, and then things that they've done in the past, such as what are the caucuses doing? How about hearings or not having hearings, special sessions, vetoes? All of those things give us a little better picture of what's going on. And it's up to you how much you want to follow. We can always do more if there's some interest after, not tonight, but we will be getting out a survey just asking, are we hitting the mark for you, or do we need to move in a little different direction? Again, we think that these topics are important as a committee, and it's a large committee. Being able to meet by Zoom has allowed us to have more participation across the state. And so it's been a great committee, and we've been extremely busy. We average at least probably 2 meetings a month, sometimes more frequently, but it's been a great committee to really take a look at these things and moving us forward.
We are ready to move into our next segment, and we had a question. Will these suggested websites be listed on the AAUW Wisconsin page? Actually, they are embedded in this presentation. So when the presentation is posted on our website, just simply scroll through the presentation and you will find these websites.
Right.
Thank you. Please keep your questions coming in. And again, at the end of the conclusion of Sarah's comments, we will do our best to answer all of your questions. So appreciate any questions. Did Barb Peterson, I saw her name briefly, but Barb,
I am here.
Okay. All right, Barb.
So I just want, before we introduce Sarah, I just want to mention Barb's going to do that as co-chair. She's going to take on that. We just want to make sure that you understand that Sarah's here to help us understand the process of an organization who shares some of the same values we have around health, women's health, and how they go about finding the right candidates that they want to support, or the issue, how they go about it. So we're talking about the process tonight, but again, lots of valuable information. So Barb, I'll let you take it over.
Well, thank you. I'm sorry I'm late to the meeting, but somehow my computer decided to crash. So I'm back now. So hello, everyone. I am Barb Peterson, and tonight we're having an after dinner treat. Many of you are familiar with Sarah Fingers. She has served as the executive director of the Wisconsin Alliance for Women's Health since 2004. As director, she has led efforts to ensure policy and system change in women's health be done with us and not to us. In her capacity as director, Sarah has spoken at AAUW events for branches and at our state legislative day on several occasions, which is how I got to know you, Sarah. Prior to assuming this directorship, Sarah was the Northeast Director of Membership and Professional Relations for the Wisconsin Medical Society. She received her undergraduate degree in political science from the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire. In 2010, Sarah received a Champion of Women's Health Award from the Wisconsin Women's Health Foundation. In 2011, she was recognized by the Wisconsin Coalition Against Sexual Assault with a Voices of Courage Award. But that's not all. In 2012, Sarah was honored with Health Watch Wisconsin Outreach Effort Award for her coordination work of the Save Badger Care Coalition. Also, Sarah was named an Outstanding Recent Alumni Award from the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire and was named a Woman to Watch by Brava magazine, and was named a Champion of Change by the White House for her work related to the Affordable Care Act. Sarah has written featured articles in Wisconsin newspapers, including an article I saw today in Cap Times. Congratulations, Sarah. Later this year, she becomes the co-author of a chapter in a book titled Be the Change. Sarah has given so much of her time and talent for women. She is passionate about women's rights to equal health care, and I'm sure she will empower you to join her in those efforts and vote for your interests in November. Please help me welcome Sarah Finger. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Barb. It's so good to see you. I can't see any of your faces right now because I got my screen up. Can you see the screen, the Wisconsin Alliance for Women's Health in front of all of you?
Yes, we can, Sarah.
Okay, so somebody, like I'm going blind right now. So if somebody can just flag me if there's any questions or anything going on, I'm just going to go ahead and go through the PowerPoint here, I think. I got to make sure that Stephanie, this isn't easy, right? Okay, hold on. Hold on. Come on.
And we probably don't need to spotlight you because you're.
Yeah, you're going to see the slides.
Yes, I'm going to remove the spotlight. So I think.
Okay, so you see the slides again?
Yes, we can see the slides.
Okay, I just got to see if I can forward it. Okay, so I am incredibly honored to be here tonight. Thank you so much for joining us on a Thursday evening. I'm no stranger to AAUW. This is my 18th year of leading the organization that at the end of the day, we're on the cover of Time magazine. The goal is that every single Wisconsin woman at every age and every stage of life is able to reach her optimal health, safety, and economic security. So there's no, wondering why AAUW and the Alliance for Women's Health have partnered so well together over all these years. We have so much in common in terms of that vision around health, safety, and economic security. And how we do this every single day to achieve this vision is we inform, we involve, and we inspire people to be effective advocates for change. Because at the end of the day, we believe that policy and systems change, they should happen with us rather than to us. And so I'm thrilled to be here tonight, and I'll be respectful of time and keep an eye on that. Are you watching my slides advance? Can someone tell me if you're seeing
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
We're good.
So, this is a postcard we put together for a previous campaign. We have a campaign called Persist at the Polls that I'll talk about a little bit more. But this is, what it comes down to, right? Are you cool with the world today? Are you happy with how things are going? If yes, and you want to keep it that way, you still got to vote, right? But a lot of us are really concerned that we're not so happy with how things are happening. And we're really seeing, again, women being on the menu rather in the policymaking kitchen. And so a lot of us are saying, no, we're not cool about it. And then we need to do something about it. And voting is going to be absolutely critical to making sure we're here to dictate what the future holds for us. I already mentioned I use a lot of metaphors and acronyms. I'm probably making you hungry if you're not already eating. But I say, if you're not in that kitchen, you're on the menu. And what we're seeing today in the realities of policy, and again, the real frustrations of the policies not at all being reflective of our needs and our visions and our values as women. It's definitely happening to us rather than with us. And so our organization loves any opportunity to be here to help empower individuals to imagine a different future, that it doesn't have to be this way. And we have an incredible opportunity this year in particular to start demanding a better future and a better democracy. I just want to make note, and I don't think this is lost on any of you joining us tonight. Midterm elections have not been big turnout elections. You can see right now, I think the highest turnout we've ever had was the presidential election in 2004 at 73%. Now, I don't know if some of you know about other developed nations around the world, but you think 73% is actually a decent turnout, and it's not. There are many other developed nations that have almost 100% turnout, because they create a system in which, everybody has a holiday to vote, and everyone's automatically registered, and they do things. And we don't make it easy to be heard and to be part of the democratic process in the United States. And so while it's exciting to see, like in 2020, we had almost a 73% turnout rate of registered voters in Wisconsin, you can see that over the course of history, we have not shown up the way we should during these midterm elections. And as Stephanie alluded to, at this November 8th, every single state assembly seat is up. Every single one of those 99 seats are up. Half of the state Senate is up. The governor's up for election, Attorney General, U.S. Senate. There are no shortage of important elections. And I think too often we are drawn to presidential elections and all of our energy goes to the White House and, things that have been happening over the last decade in terms of who's president. But I will tell you, the most damage done to women's health, safety, and economic security has been done at the state legislative level. And I will recognize the 2010 midterm election as one of the most, if not the most, consequential elections of our lifetime. I know people talk about 2016, people talk about 2020. But 2010 is when we took our eye off the prize. And you can see that we did not have a high turnout rate in the 2010 election when it was a midterm. It was, the midterm after Barack Obama was elected. And you had a lot of people who turned out in droves in 2008 and then sat back and took the midterms and state legislative elections for granted. And so for a number of reasons, people just didn't show up. And you had one of the lowest voter turnouts in 2010. But what that did, and I just want to echo what Stephanie is saying, we are a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization. We will work with any policymaker from any party or political persuasion who wants to help us advance evidence-based policies. And so what happened, though, in 2010, I don't think it's lost on some of you that there was a Tea Party takeover of state legislatures across the country. And that was very deliberate because, again, we were all drawn to presidential elections, especially after the historic election of Barack Obama. But we sat back and either said, yay, we elected the first African-American president, our work here is done. We don't need to do anything in 2010. Or some of us, we're like, oh, Obama's not going far enough on healthcare reform, not going far enough on immigration. And we just were dissatisfied and didn't turn out. And so I can't tell you the consequences that we're dealing with. And I'm happy. I know there's probably a lot of questions about, what's happening on reproductive rights and redistricting and things. And if we have time, I'm more than happy to go into that with you. But where we're at today in the system where I can sit in the state capitol 24/7, I can camp out there all year round and fight for good policies like paid leave and expanding Medicaid and repealing the 1849 abortion law. But the matter of the fact is, because of the 2010 election and that supermajority that took over that year in state legislatures all across the country, they were able to draw new maps that insulated their power and gerrymandered. So it's really hard to hold those individuals accountable. So right now it's next to impossible, even though we have a Democratic governor that supports a lot of these policies. We have this Republican supermajority in our state assembly and our state Senate who are not, open to having hearings on some of these bills like paid leave or not shackling pregnant and laboring people in prisons. There's a lot of issues out there that just sit dormant because of this dynamic we have right now. So if it's not, again, I haven't already hit this point home. We cannot afford to take any election for granted. You're seeing what's happening at the school board levels with secretaries of state and everything. Like we better lean into every single election from here on out. And I think this is what's really interesting is that it makes sense that people don't turn out for midterms because we're not, again, really cultivated to connect to our local representatives. And I know some of you have heard me speak before and I can't see the chat. So this is getting a little awkward, but and I'll just kind of expedite things right now, but the percentage of Wisconsinites who know who their state legislators are, you can all kind of guess in your head right now. And I usually can see you all and know who my pessimists and my optimists are. But I'm just going to cut to the chase. And the reality is less than 7% of people in the state can identify who their state legislators are. So if you don't know who's working for you in that building, how would you possibly connect to them? How would you possibly inform them and help make sure they're representing you? And how would you hold them accountable? And so one of the first steps, I'm asked tonight to talk about, how do we better know and better be an informed voter on November 8th? And one of the first things we need to do is pay this forward tonight. A lot of you probably do know who your state assembly representative is and your state senator is. But the whorepresentsme.info website will go ahead and link you to every single person that is elected to represent you. And that is going to be absolutely critical going into this election, as Stephanie mentioned. the people that are incumbents who are looking to get rehired on the ballot in November, luckily they have a little bit of a record that you can look to. So I think what Stephanie was referring to is that one of the things we recognize is that the system, even if you go to some of these websites, it is so hard to find the information and then to make sense of the information when you want to know about the people who represent you in the building. So if you overcome, finding out who represents you, it's like, well, how do I know what the heck they're doing for me day in and day out, or what they're not doing for me? So our organization has been working, we've been involved in elections for a long time, trying to help make transparent, information about your current elected officials. And so what we did for every single one of the 99 assembly districts in the state is that we went ahead and we tracked these 20 different issues. And I don't know how hard it is to see on your screen, but you can see it ranges anything from reproductive health care to maternal health care, to infertility treatment, to breast cancer coverage. And we tracked all those bills that have been introduced this last legislative session. And what we did is there's no scoring. We're not telling you whether someone is good or bad. We're basically just translating what's available online and making it easy for you. Once you find out who represents you, you can drill down into your individual Senate district and your individual assembly district. And basically, we just made it crystal clear. Did your legislator sign on to sponsor this bill? Yes or no? And then we made a nice summary saying, like, for example, Andre Jacques, he co-sponsored 4 out of the 20 bills that we as the Wisconsin Alliance for Women's Health were monitoring. And so this is available for all of you. And I know some of you are talking about the links, and I'm happy to provide almost like a page you can all go to for all of these links after this, just to make sure it's accessible for you. But each and every one of you can find your own incumbent legislators' record. It's not all bills that they sponsored, right? But these are 20 bills that we were interested in as related to women's health, safety, and economic security. Again, somebody stop me or flag me if there's questions or anything. I'm just going to move through this PowerPoint because I know we're already short on time.
No, but Sarah, I was just going to say we can't read the fine print on that slide, but when we get a link, everyone who's with us tonight will be able to see it. Thank you. Fabulous.
So so number one, finding out who represents you is absolutely critical, right? Because that makes things a little easier, because you can see a track record of that legislator. The next thing you want to do is preview your ballot. And I love this about the My Vote Wisconsin website now, is that you can go to this site right now, plug in your address, and you can get the sample ballot. So what is on the screen, the yellow on the right-hand side is a sample ballot for me. This is my ballot for November 8th. And it's not the complete one, but I wanted to take a screenshot and show you. So then what's exciting, right, is that you can go in and see who are the people that are vying for my vote, who want to get hired or fired or, rehired by me. And this is where I can start then to do some of that research. And so I just think this is one of the greatest gifts to any voter right now, is that how do you even know to research someone if you can't know who's on your ballot? And so going to myvote.wi.gov and previewing your ballot, spread the word on this, because instead of showing up on November 8th or with your absentee ballot, I think this is such a gift to have the time ahead of time to start doing some of this research. Our campaign a few years ago around Get Out the Vote was Ask, Learn, Vote. And we understand that it is very difficult to try and understand, especially some of these local candidates. If it's not, you can see, these commercials, and like it was said, if that's the only information you have, it's spin, right? And so what I like is that there are other, you mentioned 411, there's Ballotpedia, and then there's the Ready to Vote, which I think it actually can show you too some of the organizational sponsors. So there are really good tools out there. And I want to say again, you might not find everything you're looking for on some of these websites, especially when they're focused on Congress and the federal level. But once you preview your ballot, sign up for the emails for those candidates. Go to those candidates' websites. Follow them on social media. They're going to be pretty straightforward of who they are at this point. And I know, we always say go to candidate forums and ask questions, but you never know if your question will be answered. You never know if you'll be able to make it. You never know with COVID, everything else right now. So those are the recommendations I give, is that you have a right to know where these individuals stand. They owe it to you to be upfront and let you know how they feel about issues that you care about. And so these are just some tips of how you can go ahead and use some technology that we have right now in order to really, again, engage with candidates before you're actually making the vote for them. As mentioned by Stephanie, we do have a critical day next week. As I mentioned, we don't typically have high turnout in midterm elections, but we already have record-breaking numbers of voter registration, and I think we have the Supreme Court to thank for that. But next Tuesday, September 20th, is National Voter Registration Day. 1 in 4 people, especially young people who are moving, who might have graduated, who might have changed addresses, whatever it might be, any of us, it's so important that, we think we're registered to vote, but I think everybody needs to go to myvote.wi.gov and check your registration status. So make next Tuesday not just about brand new voter registration, but about making sure everybody verifies and makes sure their voter registration is up to date. And then I know some of you on the call tonight are part of our Postcard to the Polls campaign. Another thing where you're like, okay, what else can I do, Sarah, to help make sure that women's voices are heard in this critical midterm election? We still have some openings for our Postcard to the Polls campaign. Basically, we've identified around 6,000 young women in the state who either aren't midterm voters, they only vote in presidential elections, or haven't voted before or haven't registered before. And so we've done the work, we've collected their addresses, and if you sign up for this campaign, you basically get to adopt 25 of these young women, and we'll send you a whole kit, and you can help handwrite. We'll give you sample language and everything else, but you can handwrite a message. We're going old school, and we're trying to overcome the saturation of text messaging and social media right now. And so far, we're having a really good time, and we're getting a really good response from this Postcard to the Polls campaign. So I mentioned that, and we can work through that. I'm sorry, I'm really being sensitive of time. Another really, really powerful thing you can do is try and sign up. Maybe many of you already are, but become a poll worker. We're seeing those who are not in support of democracy, a fair democracy, and stronger voting opportunities, trying to become poll workers and try and make it difficult for people to vote. So in a vacuum, if we don't have, good intended individuals signing up to work the polls and be sincerely and authentically there to help voters be heard at the polls that day, other people are going to fill that gap. So I can't say this enough. And I think for anybody in your life who just feels exasperated right now, it's like, what could I possibly do to make a difference? This is really, really powerful, and we continue to have shortages. So I would really, really recommend anybody getting the word out about being a poll worker. I'm almost done with my slides.
Sarah, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay.
We're in good shape. It's okay. Breathe.
So Barb knows I got a lot of swag and asked me to show some of these things. If you're interested in a yard sign, if you're interested in a car magnet, if you're interested in a t-shirt, we got all sorts of stuff. So if you're looking to kind of walk the walk and talk the talk around town, these are just some links to some things that you can use, give as gifts, like get for yourself. And again, just get people excited. This shouldn't be a chore. This is like the most powerful opportunity we have. And then, I have to just go here. This is my last slide, but it's one thing to get to November 8th. It's one thing to kind of see where the dust settles on November 9th. But we have got to be prepared to make this kind of leaning in and being in that policymaking kitchen a 365 day a year activity. And it's not, for Barb or Jane or anybody else to be doing it all year round nonstop. But we have to condition ourselves not to show up every 4 years for presidential elections, not to just show up, every 2 years for midterm elections. But we really need to lean into the legislative session, the budget session that's coming up in January. And so come January, there are 30 open seats right now. So there's going to be a lot of new legislators. There are a lot of incumbents that will not be running. So one of the first things we have to do by mid-January is to go on whorepresentsme.info and find out who are those people that are representing us. They may be new. They're likely to be new. And then the truth is, start following them right away on social media. Sign up for their emails. Put in, I don't know about you, but I have my favorite bakery, my salon, my favorite places in my smartphone. We have got to program the contact information of the people that are working for us into our phones so that when we are ready and we do feel compelled to reach out, that it's really easy for us to make that phone call or to connect with them on social media or email. Consider sending a postcard. Again, something really stands out when there's a million different emails coming into a legislator's office. Maybe find your own postcard from your community and just write them and say, congratulations on the election. I want to introduce myself. This is what I care about. Here's my address. Here's my number. I'll be back in touch with you soon. And I cannot emphasize enough. We cannot, again, if you think the midterm election turnouts are bad, think about the spring elections for school boards, Supreme Court, and these. We have got to mark our calendars for next April is when the state Supreme Court, there's going to be a critical election there. And that is absolutely important that we already mark our calendars and make plans to vote then. And I'll just say, number one, practice radical self-care. I saw people in 2017 after the 2016 election, dive headfirst into the treacherous advocacy waters for the first time. I'm actually going to take and stop my share right now and just talk to y'all. And now I can see you. But, the truth is, it is exhausting, and we feel like we're drowning right now. And I think it's really important that we're dipping our toes and diving in and being in those advocacy waters. But more important than anything right now, give yourself permission to walk out onto the shore, dry off, warm up, look out at the horizon, and remind yourself why you got into those waters and you wanted to be an advocate to begin with. And then think about organizations like ours who are there to provide the life jackets, who are there to provide, buoys that are here to serve as advocacy doulas, that you don't need to go it alone. And then, go ahead.
Well, we do have some questions coming in, so finish your thought and we'll start having some questions for you.
Yeah. And then I'll just say the parable of the choir is the last thing that I think we all have to hang on to, that the reason that a choir can hold a beautiful note for a really long time is that there's a group of people. And if I need to catch my breath and I need to, take a step back, that note still goes on. And so I just want to emphasize that no matter what we're all doing, we're all leaning in, we're all committing to doing something. It's okay to take that breath, because if we build this kind of community and we have this kind of choir of us, the note will still go on and we'll be able to join and make that note even stronger in the future. So I am officially done with my presentation.
Sarah, thank you so much. And talk about a strong finish. That was such an inspirational finish of talking about the radical self-care. And we are a choir. We're a village, we're a choir, and we're certainly all going in the same direction. So a couple of questions that have come in for you. Question, how often do I need to register? I voted in the primary, so am I okay for this year?
You're likely okay. But I tell you, it doesn't hurt, right? It doesn't hurt to check. There have been purging of voters. Even if you voted consistently, just go on and check and then preview your ballot. You can go and find out where you need it, because a lot of times polling places close. You can order your absentee ballot. Just bookmark that page and verify no matter what.
Okay, thank you. Another question. The landscape in women's healthcare has changed profoundly in the last several months, in the last couple of years. What do you see in the future? If you were to look 1 to 3 years out, what is your wishing glass say?
I'm going to say this. You don't eat the fruit the day you plant the seeds. So we are definitely paying the price of 2010's consequences, right? So I don't expect anything to change overnight. But what I'm seeing right now is a newfound energy and an awakening that, sometimes, I try and sugarcoat this, but sometimes there's gifts, but they're wrapped in poop. I know this is being recorded, right? So there's nuggets, right? There's good things there, but it really stings. Like to have to go through these extreme moments of time when, abortion is overturned in the country, and you have to think like, why? But I can't tell you the kind of effect it's having. Where some of you have seen in Kansas, they didn't expect a ballot initiative to outlaw abortion in Kansas to go down in such a remarkable fashion. And I was on a call yesterday about polling, and there is a cause and effect here. And so what's happening right now, like in Kansas, normally you see out of the new voter registrations in any given state, it's about 50% men, 50% women. 70% of new voter registrations in Kansas are women. So something is happening here. We're hitting a tipping point. And so we have to accept that for at least the next couple of years, even if the governor is reelected, even if, we are able to have veto power and some of those things to stop even more extreme legislation from a supermajority in our state, we still have redistricting where we have a group of state legislators that are not inclined to listen because they know they're so insulated in their districts right now. So this is a long game, y'all. And we have got to, again, recognize that this is not going to be pretty, even, again, with some things playing out in favor of our issues on November 8th. This is going to take a lot of us, again, really pacing ourselves and recognizing that we have to prevent the next 2010. We have to take every moment very, very seriously. And we have got to figure out how to get more people to know who their state legislators are, to be connecting with them, and to be holding them accountable.
Sarah, we also had a lot of interest in the postcard, several comments of what a cool concept. So I think you'll be hearing more from our members. But the specific question, is there a cost associated? Does the person writing the postcards in terms of the postage or the actual postcards? And are the postcards, do they stay in the state of Wisconsin or somehow they're distributed elsewhere?
Barb, you can weigh in. So everything is free to you. We will mail a kit to you. The postcards are already done and the stamps are already on them, and you get a list of addresses. So everything is done for you. It's your time and energy in writing a little note that, again, we'll give you a script to do. So no cost to you whatsoever. And again, I hear from people participating that it's one of the more beautiful things you feel like you're doing to connect to another person.
Well, it also allows you to be on the playing field. So we had another question, Sarah. What can we do best? Again, we are an organization of activism, of resilience. What specifically do you think actions that we can take between now and the short game of November 8th? And I agree with you, it's a long game. But some of our members were asking, what else I can do? I'm going to vote. What else can I do?
Again, help people know who their legislators are. Everything I presented to you tonight, pay it forward. This is a beautiful turnout tonight, but imagine if each of you shared that with 3 different people, right? So they know who their legislators are. They're previewing their ballot. We can, again, take for granted that, everybody knows what's at stake. They're all going to vote. Really find a buddy system and help be almost like a voter doula for the people in your life to help them navigate, because unfortunately, again, there are still barriers that exist. So one, just continue to raise awareness of what's at stake, continue to connect people to the resources and know they're not alone and they don't have to climb this uphill battle on their own. And that, I think it was mentioned earlier, maybe not, but I always love the reference that, one snowflake, may not really do much, right? But together we can stop traffic. So remind people that, even though one vote doesn't seem like, it matters, only by stopping traffic and all voting together right now are we going to make our voices heard at the polls this year.
Excellent. Sarah, I can't thank you enough on behalf of the Public Policy Committee of AAUW statewide of your time, your resourcefulness, your inspirational remarks. Just as a couple of reminders, as Stephanie said, this is the second in a series of webinars that AAUW has. And the first was making your vote count. And we actually had some of the same websites, myvote.com. So I was reminded that tonight's presentation in its entirety will be emailed out to everyone on this call. Future actions that the public policy are working on is preparation for meetings with elected officials, and then meeting and advocating for AAUW issues with elected officials. So we are also, and then of course the 2-minute activists that National presented. So the Public Policy Committee in the state of Wisconsin is very much on the playing field. They're very engaged. They're very active. You're going to hear more from us. That concludes our questions. And once again, a thank you to Sarah. Stephanie, you've done an outstanding job bringing tonight's presentation together. And I'm going to ask you for 1 or 2 comments, and then we will close out this evening. Stephanie?
So I want to thank everyone for coming. As Mary said, we have some things planned for you. We want to get you to those legislators and make our voice heard. And so thank you again for joining us tonight. So look for the next one. We expect that to be after the elected officials are in office. So we're looking at that around January. So
thank you so much. Get the word out. Be butterflies, be snowballs, snowflakes. All right. Have a nice evening, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.